Today, we'll look at two cave stories that ended horribly. The first is an unprecedented event, the chilling and terrifying story of three friends who fell into an icy lake. The second is an even more horrific and unique tale, the tragedy of two young friends who, while attempting an unauthorized cave exploration, faced disaster due to a drone. On a frigid February morning in 2001, deep in Iceland's Skaftafell National Park, three friends, Erik Hansen, Elsa Olsen, and Jonas Berg, set out on a daring adventure. Each brought their own strengths. Erik, a powerhouse of endurance, Elsa, the sharp-minded leader, and Jonas, brimming with grit despite a recent knee surgery. Destination? The breathtaking Skaftafell Ice Cave, carved beneath the mighty Vatnajökull glacier, its crystalline walls shimmering like a frozen dream. But their plan was dangerously flawed. Armed only with worn crampons, basic flashlights, and a single thermos of water, no ropes, no spare batteries, no proper thermal gear. They leaned on their confidence as a trio. "We've got this," Elsa declared, her eyes sparkling with excitement. But the cave was ready to challenge their boldness. Would their trust in each other be enough? The Skaftafell Ice Cave loomed like a cathedral of ice, its beauty both captivating and treacherous. At its entrance, the frosty breath of Vatnajökull stung the air. The walls glowed in hues of turquoise and emerald, while a distant howl of wind echoed from the depths. Every breath burned the lungs, sharp and biting. Erik, Elsa, and Jonas tread carefully, their crampons scraping against the glassy floor. Their flashlights cast beams across jagged crevices, each one a hidden threat. A quiet unease stirred within them, unspoken but heavy. The cave's silence, broken only by the soft drip of melting ice, felt alive, like a heartbeat. "It's like another world," Jonas whispered, his voice swallowed by the vastness. Beneath its enchanting glow, the cave concealed a deadly trap, waiting to claim them. Trouble struck quickly, exposing their lack of preparation. Their old crampons barely gripped the slick ice, and their thin clothing offered little protection against the biting cold. Jonas's knee, still healing, throbbed with every step, though he masked his pain to keep the group moving. "Let's push on," he urged, his tone defiant. They entered a narrow passage where the ice seemed to cling to their skin like icy fingers. Their flashlights flickered, their beams growing faint, signaling the threat of darkness. Elsa paused, sensing danger, but their shared confidence drove them deeper. "Just a little farther," Erik said, his voice tinged with doubt. That choice sealed their fate. They reached a crystal-clear ice pool, 2 meters deep, its edges slick and unforgiving. As Jonas stepped closer, his knee gave out. In a heartbeat, he slipped, plunging into the freezing water. His scream ricocheted off the walls and faded into silence. Panic gripped Erik and Elsa as Jonas's flashlight sank, plunging them into near darkness. "Jonas!" Elsa cried, her voice trembling. They rushed to the pool's edge, their beams revealing Jonas thrashing in the icy water, unable to grip the slippery sides. "I can't climb out," he gasped, his voice raw with pain. The cold sapped his strength, his lips turning blue as hypothermia set in. Erik and Elsa reached for him, but their crampons skidded on the ice, leaving them powerless. The absence of a rope, their gravest mistake, left them stranded. Fear tightened its hold, their hearts pounding. The cave's eerie silence was now broken only by Jonas's fading struggles. Desperate, Elsa tore off her jacket. "We'll use our clothes," she said, her voice firm but edged with dread. Erik, hands shaking, added his shirt and jacket, knotting them into a makeshift rope. But this plan pulled them deeper into peril. The freezing air pierced the remaining layers, threatening them all with hypothermia. They extended the fragile rope to Jonas, who clung to it with weakening hands. But the knot strained, and the ice offered no traction. Eric and Elsa fought to hold their ground, despair creeping in as the cave's icy walls seemed to mock their struggle. Hours dragged on, each second an eternity. Jonas's breaths grew faint, his lips purple, his eyes lifeless. Eric and Elsa pulled with all their might, refusing to surrender, their muscles burning. But the ice betrayed them. In a cruel twist, both slipped, tumbling into the freezing pool. The icy water shocked their lungs, stealing their breath. All three were now trapped, their limbs numb, their movements sluggish. The makeshift rope sank, useless, along with their hope. The cave's silence swallowed their gasps, each breath a desperate fight. "Hold on," Elsa whispered, her voice breaking as the cold drained her strength. Eric clung to Jonas, trying to keep him afloat, but his own body faltered. Their flashlights went dark, the cave's icy embrace closing in like a tomb. The Skaftafell Ice Cave offered no mercy. Eric, Elsa, and Jonas, clinging to one another in the icy pool, drew their final breaths. Hypothermia claimed them, the cold as relentless as a thief. The cave's crystalline walls stood witness, unmoved by their tragedy. Their car, parked in a remote corner of the park, sat unnoticed for days. A week later, a ranger spotted the abandoned vehicle. Rescue teams ventured into the cave, only to find the three friends, frozen in an eternal embrace within the pool's silent depths. The cave's beauty, their final sight, had become their tune. Nature's lesson was brutal. Unpreparedness comes at the ultimate cost, and the wilderness forgives no one. This heartbreaking story reveals nature's unyielding power and the critical need for preparation. Eric, Elsa, and Jonas fell to their own overconfidence, undone by inadequate gear and poor planning. Skaftafell Ice Cave didn't just test their courage, judged them. Caving demands respect, caution, and proper equipment. Without these, even the most experienced can fall. This tale is a stark reminder. Before you challenge nature, honor its rules or pay a devastating price. A chilly October morning in 2024, on the rugged shores of Scotland's Staffa Island, two 15-year-old best friends, Lachlan MacLeod and Finn Campbell, hatched what they thought was a brilliant plan. Lachlan's dad, a seasoned caver, had explored the iconic Fignal's cave for years, often warning the boys about its hidden perils. But fueled by teenage bravado, they brushed off his advice. Their mission? To sneak into the cave, map it with a high-tech drone, and become legends among their friends. Fignal's cave, with its stunning hexagonal basalt columns carved by the sea, was a natural wonder, a maze of shadowy passages begging to be explored. Their plan seemed simple: fly the drone, chart the cave, and slip out unnoticed. But this breathtaking cave had other plans. The cave's entrance loomed like a jagged, dark mouth, framed by towering basalt pillars battered by relentless Atlantic waves. The air was thick with the tang of salt and sea foam, the entrance shrouded beneath ancient pines. Lachlan and Finn stood at the threshold, their boots slipping on wet rocks. They were woefully unprepared, carrying just a drone, 2 flashlights, and a single water bottle. Hardly the gear for aspiring adventurers. Lachlan's dad always stressed ropes, helmets, and backup equipment, but the boys shrugged it off. "It's just a quick drone flight," Lachlan said, his voice nearly swallowed by the wind. Finn, grinning, fiddled with the drone's controls, its lights glinting off the cave's damp walls. Inside, the air was cold and heavy, the echo of crashing waves blending with the faint drip of water from unseen depths. The basalt columns shimmered in their flashlight beams, whispering of the cave's ancient power. Venturing deeper, the boys found a wide platform to launch their drone. Its propellers whirred to life, slicing through the still air as it soared, its camera revealing the cave's surreal beauty. Lachlan expertly guided the drone through towering columns and into a narrow passage, the screen displaying a labyrinth of glistening cracks and sudden drops. "This is unreal," Finn whispered, eyes glued to the footage. But their thrill didn't last. As Lachlan navigated a tight crevice, the drone's image shook violently. A loud thud echoed, followed by a gut-wrenching crunch. The screen went dark. The drone was stuck, its propellers jammed in a rocky crevice deep within the cave. "It's not far," Lachlan said, his voice shaky but determined. "We can get it back." Driven by stubborn resolve, the boys pressed deeper into the cave. The passage tightened, cold basalt grazing their skin. Their flashlights cast eerie shadows, and the air grew heavy with the scent of seaweed and stone. The distant roar of waves turned menacing, the cave's silence broken only by their quickening breaths. They reached a fork in the path, where one route led to a dark 9-meter pit with jagged, unforgiving walls. Finn's flashlight caught a faint glint the drone's metal frame, wedged in a narrow crevice. "There it is," Finn said, leaning forward, his light trembling. But the slick basalt betrayed him. In an instant, Finn slipped, tumbling headfirst into the pit. His scream faded into the darkness below. "What do you think went wrong?" Lachlan froze, his heart pounding. Finn's flashlight clattered against the rocks and went out. "Finn!" he shouted, his voice echoing uselessly. Peering over the pit's edge, Lachlan's flashlight revealed Finn, 9 meters down, trapped in the crevice. His legs were twisted at unnatural angles, his head barely above a pool of icy seawater. "I can't move." "It hurts," Finn groaned, his voice faint with pain. His arms were pinned, his chest crushed by the unyielding rock. The drone, now a forgotten wreck, lay shattered nearby, its lights flickering faintly. Panic gripped Lachlan. He tried to reach his friend, but the pit was too steep, too narrow. His flashlight flickered, its battery fading, amplifying his dread. Could their inexperience cost them everything? Scrambling back to the platform, Lachlan's hands shook as he checked his phone. No signal. The cave's isolation was total. Finn's moans grew fainter, the cold sapping his strength. Lachlan's mind raced with his father's warnings. Always bring backup gear. Always tell someone your plans. Guilt and fear surged as he realized their mistakes. "Hold on, Finn," he shouted, his voice breaking. Crawling through the dark, his dying flashlight left him in near blackness. The cave's chill seeped into his bones, Finn's weakening cries and the relentless waves driving him forward. Scraping his hands on sharp basalt, Lachlan pushed on, desperate to save his friend. What felt like an eternity later, Lachlan stumbled out of the cave, sea foam stinging his face in the stormy dusk. He sprinted along the rocky shore, flagging down a fishing boat. "My friend's trapped," he cried, voice raw. The crew radioed for help, and soon, the Skaftafell Cave rescue team arrived, their faces grim. Fignal's cave was infamous for its deadly drops hidden among basalt columns. Armed with ropes, harnesses, and chisels, the rescuers plunged into the cave, their headlamps cutting through the darkness. Finn's pit was a nightmare, narrow, slick, and unstable, with seawater pooling at its base. Can you imagine being in Lachlan's shoes, waiting helplessly? Finn was in critical condition, his skin pale, lips blue from hypothermia, his breaths shallow. The rescuers worked with precision, chiseling at the stubborn basalt as debris splashed into the water below. Finn's silence was terrifying, his body motionless. "Stay with us, lad," a rescuer urged, voice steady but tense. They rigged a complex harness system, battling the pit's unforgiving shape. Lachlan paced the shore, haunted by their decision to chase the drone. After 2 grueling hours, the team freed Finn, his body cold but alive. They secured him to a stretcher, navigating the treacherous passages with exhausted determination. Emerging into the stormy night, waves crashing against Staffa's rocks, the team faced worsening conditions. Paramedics rushed in, wrapping Finn in thermal blankets and starting IV fluids. His pulse was faint, his body hypothermic, with a broken ankle from the fall. Lachlan collapsed nearby, tears mixing with sea spray, relief warring with guilt. Finn was airlifted to a hospital in Oban, where he slowly recovered from severe hypothermia and injuries. The drone, a symbol of their recklessness, remained lost in the cave's depths. Lachlan's father, shaken by their secrecy, stayed by Finn's side, his anger softened by gratitude. The boys had underestimated Fignal's cave's merciless beauty. Their survival was a miracle, but the emotional scars ran deep. A day that started with a drone became a desperate fight for life. This gripping tale is a stark reminder of nature's unforgiving power. Lachlan and Finn's impulsive adventure, driven by youthful curiosity, nearly ended in tragedy. Caving demands respect, preparation, and communication lessons carved into Fignal's basalt walls. Their survival rested on the rescuer's skill and Lachlan's desperate resolve. But the cave's message was clear: nature doesn't forgive recklessness. If this story struck a chord, hit the like button and subscribe for more gripping survival tales. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever faced nature's raw power? Let's talk in the comments.